Hello everyone and welcome to some incredible news from the chess world. Yes, Arjun Erigaisi did it. He broke 2800. He crossed that magical threshold that only 15 players were able to cross before him. For extra points, name them in the comments. But yeah, absolutely incredible. He is the 16th ever to do it and the second from India. Of course, everyone knows who is the first, and yeah, we could say it's the most prestigious club you could belong to, the 2800 club. I would say maybe the club of world classical champions is above the 2800 club, simply because you have to strictly beat the absolute best players in the world in order to get there, where in comparison it is possible to maybe reach 2800 by beating lower rated players, but you have to beat like 1,000 of them. I'm very happy that Arjun was able to do it by beating a 27-29 player like Andreikin in some great fashion. So let's check it out, and then we're gonna discuss a bit more. Arjun with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to c6 by Dmitry, opts for the Karo Khan. We have d4, d5, and e5. He goes for the advanced variation, and now pawn to c5. This is the so-called the Botvinnik variation, but nowadays also referred to as the Carlsen variation. D captures on c5, e6, and now pawn to a3. Bishop captures on c5 and knight to f3. Nicely developing, also with a nice defense of the e5 pawn. And okay, we could play different moves here, like knight d7, maybe knight d7, but here we have the immediate pawn to f6. Dmitry says that, okay, he's down for a brawl, and this was never really played between top players. In 2019, David Navara tried it twice against Wesley So, and he lost both games with black, but okay, those were blitz games. This is the first time that it has been attempted at top level chess in classical. Pawn to b4 by Arjun, attacking the bishop. We have bishop to e7 and bishop to b2. We have pawn to a5 and pawn to b5. Knight to d7, and now bishop to d3, knight to h6, and queen to e2. Just nicely developing. We have castles kingside and pawn to c4, striking against the black strong center here. Knight to f7, putting pressure on the center, and now we have a capture fest in the center. C captures on d5, knight d captures on e5. We have knight captures on e5, knight captures on e5. Bishop captures on e5, f captures on e5, and now there actually is a game that reached this exact same position. It was played last year between Irina Bulmaga and Shir Shatul, where pawn to d6 was played, and pawn to d6 is in fact the top move recommended by the engine, but Arjun decides to go for something trickier. He plays knight to c3, and it is now as of move 16 that we have a completely new game, which is funny, as Arjun just became the 16th player ever to break 2800. Okay, knight c3, we have e captures on d5, and now knight captures on d5. Of course, Arjun isn't just blundering a knight, he is a 2800 player after all. If you capture with the queen, bishop c4, and the queen is lost. So bishop to c5, putting pressure on that f2 pawn with the bishop and with the rook, and now castles kingside. We have bishop to e6 by Andreikin, knight to e3, and bishop to d4. Here, king to h8 does seem to be the safest way to go, countering ideas like bishop to c4, but bishop to d4, attacking the rook, and now Arjun says, not today. He plays queen to h5, and he offers the rook on a1, but capturing the rook on a1 would be, well, really ill-advised. Of course, you're not going to capture with the queen, you're going to capture with the bishop and checkmate the black king. So that's the idea. So after queen to h5, pawn to g6, and now Arjun plays bishop captures on g6. He sacrifices the bishop, and again, capturing would not be the way to go, as the bishop on e6 is also hanging. You're going to deliver a check, and then you're going to pick it up with check, and then you get the knight into the game, you get the rooks into the game. Okay, it's Arjun is up only 2 pawns, but there are no defenses in front of the black king. This will be an easy game for Arjun. So after bishop captures on e6, we have queen to e7, guarding the bishop and the h7 pawn, and now bishop back to e4. We have rook to f4, attacking the bishop and preparing to double up on the f-file, and bishop to d5, offering a trade of bishops. We have rook 8 to f8, doubling up, and now rook 8 to e1. Of course, you could capture the rook, but Of course, Andrejki knows that with his king opened like this, his bishop is much more valuable than the rook on a1 doing nothing. So rook 8 to e1 and king to h8. Okay, the king is much safer now, got off of this diagonal, and also maybe in some lines you could maybe even double up on the g file. So pawn to g3 and rook 4 to f6, bringing the rook back. Bishop captures, we have queen captures, and now rook to e2. And one thing that Andrejkin also has to be weary about is the clock. He has 13 minutes on the clock. Arjun almost half an hour. We have pawn to b6 and knight to c2 now, attacking the bishop. Of course, you don't want to blunder that as there's a queen on e6. So bishop to b2, putting pressure on the a3 pawn, and now queen to h4. Queen to h4 is a very, very tricky move by Arjun, and he's preemptively countering Andrejkin's strongest move, and it wasn't played in the game, but he was countering queen to b3. The idea was pawn to a4, for the queen to defend it, but now there are so many wild tricky ideas like rook to f4, attacking the queen, like queen to h5, and you can't capture on a4. That's not gonna work. But also there's not a lot you can do, and especially not g captures on f4. If you capture that, then rook to g8 check, followed by queen to f3 checkmate. There's no other way to play that. So after queen to h4, queen to b3 is very interesting, and offers some very interesting lines, but chances are it's going to be a draw after the rook just continues following the white queen up and down the board. But queen to d5 was played by Dmitry. He was already down to 4 minutes on the clock, and now pawn to a4 by Arjun. We have rook to f4. He finds the tricky idea, but now it's very much different. Now Arjun plays queen to h6. Queen to h5 was even stronger. Point being that you are defending the rook, so there are no tricky ideas with queen to c4, and if rook captures on a4, which is the kind of the idea, then knight to e3 attacks the queen and the bishop. So the queen on d5 isn't all that impressively placed. So after rook to f4, we have queen to h6 going after the rook on f8, and now queen to c4. That's why we said that the previous line was better. Queen to h5, now defending the rook again, the rook defending the knight, and rook 8 to f5, attacking the queen, asking, are you maybe interested in a queen to e8? So I'm going to block with rook to f8, and we call it a day. But Arjun decides to go for the win. He plays knight to e3. Well, maybe not the win, but he wants to continue the game at all cost. So he attacks the queen and the rook, and queens must be traded off now. Rook captures on h5, knight captures on c4, rook captures on c4, and the rook captures on b2. Now we have a rook and pawn endgame. Rook captures on a4, equalizing in material, and now rook to c2. Arjun says, I'm not interested in picking up any of the pawns, I'm going after checkmate. We have pawn to e4. Probably keeping the tension with rook to g5, also leaving the option of maybe h5, h4 was the way to go. But after pawn to e4, now it gets very tricky. Rook to d1 by Arjun, and now rook captures on b5. Interestingly, pawn to e3 is the only way to play this position. Pawn to e3, and now after rook to c7, e captures on f2 check, and after king captures, you get rook to g4, and now you can block with rook to g8. That's kind of the idea. But after rook captures on b5, it is much, much different, as now Arjun's position is completely winning, and he finds it. I'm not going to tell you what he played. You guys will tell me what he played. Pause the video and test your might. Are you worthy of the 2800 rating? Have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on being 2800 worthy. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to c7. That is the move. Of course, not rook to d8 or rook to c8, or I hope you were not considering rook to d7, because it's not the same. Then black would block with rook to c5. On the other hand, after rook to c7, it seems like, okay, we're just checkmating black, but not so fast. There's rook to g5. And now, okay, you've prevented the checkmate. So where is the win? I hope you have looked beyond this point. The win is, of course, pawn to h4. and now you will take away all of the squares from the rook on the g file. That is what Arjun saw. We have rook to g4 already on the 1 minute mark, and rook to d8 with check. Rook to g8, and now rook d to d7, and now you cannot play pawn to h5. If you just played rook to d7 without the rook being on g8, then black would just play h5 and Andreykin would be okay. Now you cannot play it. If you move the pawn, rook to h7 will be checkmate. So after rook d to d7, rook to g4, but now look at this. Rook captures on h7, king to g8, and now rook h back to d7. Again, threatening checkmate. So king h8, freeing up the g8 square for the rook, and now king to g2. Now the white king and the h pawn will take away all of the squares from this rook on the g file. We have rook to b4. Other moves aren't that much better. Maybe some b2 e3 action. Maybe you can push the pawn, but you simply don't have time. King to h3, and now rook to g6, getting the rook out of harm's way. h5, rook to g5, and now pawn to h6. We have rook to b1, and you don't even have to attack the rook any further, just pawn to h7. And he was in this position on move 48 that Dmitry Andreykin resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So next move is checkmate. Whatever you play, the only way to avoid it maybe would be rook to h1 check, and then you capture on h7 and give up the rook, but even your uncle would be ashamed to play something like this. I'm pretty sure he would resign right in this position here, much like Andreykin. So yeah, Arjun takes the win. He's on 4.5 out of 5 after 5 rounds in the European Club Cup, but that is of less importance. Here are the what's interesting for us. Here are the world top 20. Okay, maybe 21. I cut off Anish Giri back there. But yeah, look at that. 4 people over 2,800 now. Magnus 2831, Fabiano 2805, Arjun Arigaisi 2802, and Hikaru 2802. But okay, these are only the live standings, which is incredibly impressive, but he will have to make it to the end of the month. So 6 more days or 7, and then if he's still above 2,800, he will officially have become a 2,800 player forever, and for all eternity. But yeah, we haven't seen the ratings for a while. There we have it. Those are the top 4. The highest rated player not to be 2,800 is our World Chess Championship challenger Gukesh. Nodrbek, Alireza, Yanni Pomnishi, Wei Yi, Vishwanathan Anand, still in top 10. No one is ever kicking him out of the top 10. If someone wasn't sure what I was talking about, the other player from India who reached 2,800 is Anand, I believe in 2006. Kasparov was the first to do it in 1990, but yeah, Anand I think got it in 2006. And Fischer never officially was 2,800. He was like, I think he was estimated to be like maybe 2798 or something, but yeah, I mean, who are we kidding? Of course, I consider Fischer a 2,800 player, even though officially he never was one. But yeah, there we have it. Wesley, Lanier, Dominguez Perez, Yang Shistov Dudal, Kwang Liem Le, Levon Aronian, Vidit Gujarati, Maxim Vashail Graf, Shahriar Mamedyarov, Pragnananda, Hans Niemann in number 20, dropped, some points there, and Anish Giri, and so on and so on. But yeah, I mean, Arjun Erigaisi, world number 3 over 2,800, absolutely incredible, and very much looking forward to where this ends. We could have a depending on how things go, we could have, if Gukesh beats Ding, we could have Arjun versus Gukesh for the next World Chess Championship match, and then who would be the winner? India would be the winner, so that would be pretty crazy, yeah. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Trip Vert, and I would like to thank E4Killa, an anonymous person, Carlos Rudy, and Amir Kanchuk for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.